In psychology, they say that some of the most tender yet tormented souls in relationships are those who constantly seek reassurance of love. They're the ones who write messages late into the night, refreshing the screen to see if the reply has arrived. They replay conversations in their heads, dissecting every pause, every emoji, every silence, searching for hidden meanings. They panic when hours pass without contact, convinced that affection has cooled, that interest has faded, that they somehow said the wrong thing. To outsiders, this may look like insecurity, even neediness. But psychology reveals something deeper. Behind this constant hunger for confirmation lies a story often written in childhood. The story of love that was conditional, inconsistent, or uncertain. A child who grew up never knowing when affection would come, or who felt they had to earn attention, learns to fear its disappearance. As adults, they carry that fear into relationships, unable to believe that love can exist without constant proof. These individuals often live in cycles of anxiety and relief. A partner's words of affirmation bring temporary calm. Asterisk, I love you. I'm here. I'm not leaving. Asterisk, but the calm fades quickly, and doubt returns louder than before. It is not because they do not believe their partner, but because their nervous system has been trained to expect abandonment. Reassurance soothes for a moment, but it never fully silences the fear. And so the cycle repeats. Anxious waiting, desperate questioning, momentary peace, renewed panic. This hunger for reassurance is not only about words. It is about gestures, needing to hold hands, needing frequent hugs, needing visible signs of care. It is about proximity, worrying when a partner grows quiet, fearing that space means disinterest, struggling with the idea that love can exist without constant presence. For the anxious heart, distance feels like danger and silence feels like rejection. Psychologists call this pattern an anxious attachment style. It is not a flaw, but an adaptation, a way the psyche learned to survive love that was unpredictable. Yet what once served as protection now becomes a burden, both for the one who feels it and for the partner who may struggle to meet endless demands for reassurance. Love becomes a battlefield of signals and responses, where silence is misread as betrayal, and affection becomes a duty rather than a gift. And yet, within these hearts lies extraordinary depth. Those who seek reassurance are often the most attentive, the most giving, the most eager to love without reservation. Their longing comes not from selfishness, but from a desperate desire to feel secure in the one place they fear losing most. In psychology, they say that beneath the constant questions, asterisk, do you love me? Are you upset? Did I do something wrong? Asterisk is not weakness, but the echo of a child still waiting to be held without condition. In psychology, they say that the need for constant reassurance in relationships is like a thirst that can never be fully quenched. No matter how often the words, I love you, are spoken, no matter how many messages are answered, the anxious heart soon feels parched again. It is not because the partner's affection is false, but because the deeper wound is untouched. Reassurance is a balm, not a cure, and the relief fades quickly, leaving behind an even stronger hunger. This cycle shapes the rhythm of the relationship. A partner says, asterisk, of course I care about you. Asterisk, for a moment, peace returns. Smiles come easily, the world feels safe. But within hours, doubt stirs again. Asterisk, do they still mean it? What if something changed? What if I did something wrong? Asterisk, and so the questioning begins once more, gentle at first, then urgent, sometimes desperate. The partner responds, offering comfort, and again there is calm. Yet this calm is fragile, because it is built on repetition rather than trust. The cycle turns endlessly, until both hearts feel weary. For the one seeking reassurance, the cost is heavy. They live in a state of near-constant anxiety, their emotions tied to every signal of approval or disapproval. A missed call feels catastrophic. A delayed reply feels like abandonment. A quiet mood in their partner feels like rejection. Their nervous system swings between extremes. Elation when reassured, despair when not. Instead of resting in love, they chase it, always afraid it might vanish at any moment. For the partner, the cost is also profound. At first, they may respond with patience, offering reassurance freely. But over time, they can begin to feel drained. What was once a joy to say I love you becomes a duty demanded over and over until the words lose spontaneity. Some partners grow frustrated, feeling they can never do enough. Others withdraw, overwhelmed by the weight of constant need. Ironically, this withdrawal often confirms the anxious person's worst fears, deepening the cycle rather than breaking it. Psychologists explain that this dynamic is common in what is known as the anxious, avoidant trap. One partner anxiously clings, needing constant proof of love, while the other withdraws to escape the pressure. The more one asks, the more the other pulls away. The more the other pulls away, the more desperate the questions become. Each side feels misunderstood, the anxious one feeling unloved, the avoidant one feeling suffocated, while in truth both are caught in the same storm of fear. Beyond a relationship, the inner impact is just as painful. The one who seeks reassurance often feels ashamed of their need. They scold themselves for being too much, apologize for asking again, and secretly wonder why they cannot simply believe the love they are given. This shame creates a cruel double bind. They crave reassurance, but also hate themselves for craving it. What should have been a moment of comfort becomes a source of self-criticism, layering anxiety upon anxiety. In psychology, they say that the need for reassurance is not a flaw, but a message. It reveals an inner wound that has not been healed, a story of abandonment that has never been rewritten. The endless cycle of asking, receiving, doubting, and asking again is not about weakness. It is about longing. Longing for safety, for permanence, for a love so steady that it does not need to be checked every hour to be real. And until that longing is met not only by a partner's words, but by inner healing, reassurance will remain a thirst that no amount of water can satisfy. In psychology, they say that the constant need for reassurance does not begin in adulthood. It is the echo of childhood carried forward into love. The nervous system does not forget the patterns it learned early, and when love was once uncertain, every silence in adulthood feels dangerous. Behind the question asterisk, do you still love me? Asterisk is another, older question. Asterisk, am I safe? Asterisk, many who live with this hunger grew up in homes where affection was unpredictable. One day, the parent was warm and attentive. The next distant, distracted, or harsh. The child learned that love could vanish without warning. To survive, they became hyper-attuned, watching for signs, tone of voice, facial expression, the slightest change in mood. They learned to read the room like a weather forecast, always on guard for storms. As adults, this vigilance continues, now directed toward partners. A delayed text becomes a thundercloud, a sigh becomes a hurricane. Others grew up with conditional love. Affection was given only when they excelled, behaved perfectly, or pleased their caregivers. The message was clear. Asterisk, you're lovable only if you perform. Asterisk, this belief becomes a script for adult relationships. They try to earn love with constant giving, constant messages, constant reassurance seeking. But because they never learned that love can be unconditional, they cannot rest in it. Every moment without proof feels like slipping into invisibility. Some carry the scars of abandonment. Parents who left, partners who betrayed, friends who disappeared. The wound of abandonment is deep, and reassurance becomes a bandage. Each, I love you, temporarily covers the fear of being left again. But just as bandages must be replaced, reassurance must be repeated, because the wound beneath remains unhealed. Psychologists describe this as an anxious attachment style shaped by early caregiving. The brain wires itself for hypervigilance. The body learns to live in fight or flight. The heart learns to equate silence with danger. This is why reassurance never lasts long. It calms the mind, but not the nervous system. Within hours, the old alarm bells ring again, demanding more proof. Beneath it all lies a core belief, asterisk, I am not enough to be loved as I am. Asterisk, this belief whispers in every unanswered message, every pause in conversation, every moment of distance. The anxious heart assumes the worst, not because it lacks intelligence, but because its earliest experiences taught it that love is fragile, temporary, and always at risk of disappearing. In psychology, they say that the constant craving for reassurance is not madness. It is memory. Memory of what it felt like to be small and uncertain in a world where love was never guaranteed. And until that memory is healed, Every present relationship becomes a stage where the past repeats itself. The partner is not only themselves, they become the ghost of every parent who turned away, every friend who left, every voice that once said, asterisk, you are too much or not enough. Asterisk, this is why reassurance feels so necessary, and why it never feels like enough. It is not only today's fear, it is yesterday's pain, still searching for a voice that will finally stay. In psychology, they say that love with constant reassurance is like a garden watered too often. What begins as care soon drowns the very roots it seeks to nourish. At first, the partner reassures with patience, believing their words or gestures will calm the storm. Asterisk, of course I love you. Of course I'm here. Nothing has changed. Asterisk, and for a moment, calm returns. But the cycle quickly repeats, and the partner begins to feel that their affection is not a gift freely given, but a test to pass over and over again. This dynamic quietly erodes intimacy. Love thrives on trust. The trust that affection does not vanish in silence, that connection does not disappear between words, that presence exists even when unspoken. But when reassurance is demanded endlessly, trust is replaced by tension. Every pause becomes suspect. Every distance becomes accusation. The anxious partner believes they are protecting love, but in truth, they are slowly suffocating it. The weight of constant reassurance shifts the roles in the relationship. The anxious one becomes a seeker, always asking, always doubting, always needing. The partner becomes a provider, always calming, always explaining, always proving. Instead of two equals meeting in freedom, the bond becomes a caretaker and child dynamic. One gives, the other receives. One reassures, the other craves. And though both may love deeply, the imbalance grows heavier with time. Psychologists call this the erosion of spontaneity. Love flourishes when affection is free. When I miss you is said because it is felt, not because it is demanded. But in a relationship dominated by reassurance, words lose their sparkle. I love you no longer feels like a confession of the heart, but like a fire extinguisher for anxiety. The partner may still mean it, but the weight of repetition steals its magic. The anxious partner suffers as well. Though they long for security, they find that reassurance never lasts. Each word of comfort dissolves quickly, replaced by new doubt. They begin to feel ashamed of their need, apologizing for being too much, yet unable to stop. They may even test their partner, picking fights, withdrawing, or creating scenarios to see if the love will hold. These tests, meant to protect, often cause the very fractures they fear. In the long run, the dynamic creates distance. Some partners grow resentful, believing their love is never enough. Others withdraw emotionally, feeling trapped in a loop of demands. And the anxious partner, sensing this withdrawal, panics all the more, intensifying the cycle. The love that could have been a sanctuary becomes a storm, where both feel exhausted, misunderstood, and unseen. In psychology, they say that reassurance is like medicine, healing when given in balance, harmful when demanded without end. Love cannot survive as a constant interrogation. It needs space, trust, and silence to breathe. Without them, even the deepest affection risks being drowned in the very flood of fear it was meant to soothe. In psychology, they say that breaking the cycle of constant reassurance is not about silencing questions, but about healing the fear behind them. The anxious heart does not need fewer words from a partner. It needs a deeper sense of safety that no sentence can ever fully provide. That safety must be built inside, where the echoes of old wounds still whisper, asterisk, you are not enough. Love can vanish at any moment. Asterisk, the first step is awareness. Many who live in this pattern do not even realize what drives them. They see only the surface. Asterisk, I text too much. I worry too often. I need too much proof. Asterisk, but psychology teaches that these are symptoms, not causes. The cause lies in history, in memories of conditional love or abandonment. By recognizing that their hunger for reassurance is not madness but memory, they begin to separate present relationships from past ghosts. The second step is communication. Too often, the anxious partner hides their need behind tests, passive questions, or emotional storms. But when they find the courage to speak honestly, asterisk, I sometimes doubt even when I don't want to. I need help calming that fear, not because of you, but because of my past, asterisk, the dynamic shifts. A partner can respond to honesty with compassion in ways they never could. Endless demands. What felt like pressure can become an invitation to closeness. The third step is self-soothing. Relying only on a partner for reassurance places an impossible weight on love. Healing begins when the anxious heart learns to calm itself in moments of panic. Breathing exercises, journaling, mindfulness, therapy, all of these create space between the fear and the action. Instead of sending 10 texts, the person learns to pause, to sit with discomfort, to remind themselves, asterisk, this silence is not abandonment. This pause does not mean rejection. Asterisk, each moment of self-soothing rewires the nervous system to trust more and panic less. The fourth step is redefining trust. Trust is not built on constant proof. It is built on consistency over time. The anxious partner can begin to shift focus from immediate reassurance to long-term evidence. Asterisk, my partner has stayed. My partner has shown care again and again. The story I fear is not the story unfolding. Asterisk, by grounding themselves in patterns rather than moments, they create a foundation stronger than fleeting words. And finally, the deepest step is self-worth. No amount of reassurance can convince someone who secretly believes they are unlovable. The work of healing is to begin building a sense of worth that does not depend on performance, perfection, or another's constant validation. This is long, difficult work, but it is also the only path to peace. When the anxious partner begins to believe, I am enough, even when I am not reassured every second, the cycle starts to loosen. In psychology, they say that reassurance is like water. It nourishes when given in balance, but drowns when demanded endlessly. To break free, the anxious heart must learn not only to drink, but also to carry its own well. Only then can love breathe again, not as interrogation, but as connection, not as panic, but as presence. In psychology, they say that the greatest transformation for the anxious heart is not found in receiving endless reassurance, but in learning to live without needing it. This does not mean ignoring fear, nor pretending doubts don't exist. It means learning that love can survive silence, that trust can grow even without constant proof, and that work can exist even when no one else is naming it aloud. The process is slow but profound. At first, the anxious partner experiments with small pauses. Instead of sending 3 follow-up messages, they wait. Instead of asking asterisk, are you upset with me? Asterisk, after every silence, they breathe. At first, the silence feels unbearable, like falling into a void. But slowly, the nervous system begins to adjust. Each time panic rises and passes without catastrophe, the body learns, asterisk, not every pause is abandonment. Not every silence is rejection. Asterisk, the partner, too, begins to notice a change. Where once they felt cornered by endless questions, they now feel space to love freely. I love you regains its magic, spoken from the heart rather than demanded by fear. Spontaneity returns. Gestures of affection flow naturally again, because they are no longer drained by repetition. Intimacy deepens not because reassurance disappeared, but because it is no longer chained to constant anxiety. Psychologists call this shift a movement from anxious attachment to secure attachment. It does not mean the anxious person never feels fear again. Instead, it means they learn to hold fear without letting it dictate every action. They learn to balance, to seek comfort when needed, but not to demand it endlessly, to believe love exists even when unspoken, to find safety not only in a partner's words, but in their own inner steadiness. The transformation changes identity as well. The one who once said, I need constant proof to feel loved, begins to say, asterisk, I can trust love without checking. Asterisk, they no longer see themselves as too much or too needy, but as human, shaped by wounds, yes, but also capable of healing. Self-worth, once outsourced to every text message, becomes internal. The anxious heart begins to carry its own well, drawing strength from within. Even conflict takes on a new shape. Where once a fight felt like the end of love, it now becomes a conversation. Where once silence meant danger, it now means space. Where once mistakes felt like proof of rejection, they now become opportunities for repair. The fear of loss remains, but it no longer dominates. Love feels less like walking a tightrope and more like resting in a home that can withstand storms. In psychology, they say that the true freedom of love is not the absence of fear, but the ability to stay present despite it. And for the one who once needed reassurance every hour, this is the deepest transformation. To know that love can be trusted even when unseen. To know that they are enough, even without constant reminders. And in this knowing, both partners finally breathe, not in panic, but in peace. In psychology, they say that the greatest liberation in love is not found in endless reassurance, but in the moment when reassurance is no longer necessary. It is not that the words lose meaning. Asterisk, I love you. Asterisk, I'm here. Asterisk, you matter to me. Asterisk, these will always hold beauty. But true freedom arrives when a heart can rest in love without demanding constant proof. When affection is trusted not because it is repeated, but because it is known. This transformation does not erase the past. The anxious heart still remembers childhood silence, still remembers the unpredictability of affection, still remembers abandonment's sting. But memory no longer dictates the present. The wound is acknowledged, seen, soothed, and in being healed it stops shouting. The once panicked voice that asked every hour, asterisk, are you leaving me? Asterisk softens into a quiet confidence. Asterisk, even if you step away for a moment, I know you will return. And even if you don't, I will still be whole. Asterisk, in relationships, this shift is revolutionary. Love that was once suffocated by constant questions now breathes with ease. Partners no longer feel like examiners in an endless test, but like companions on a shared journey. The anxious one no longer clings in desperation. They hold in trust. Silence, once unbearable, becomes safe. Distance, once terrifying, becomes space that strengthens connection. For the first time, intimacy is not weighed down by fear, but lifted by freedom. Within the self, the transformation is even deeper. No longer dependent on texts, calls, or reassurances, the person begins to find worth in their own being. They can sit in quiet without panic, can face conflict without catastrophe, can receive love without suspicion. The nervous system, once on constant alert, begins to rest. Breath steadies, sleep deepens, peace becomes possible. And in this peace, the anxious heart discovers something it has never truly known, security that does not depend on anyone else. Psychologists describe this as a shift from external anchors to internal grounding. The anxious heart once needed constant anchors from a partner, fearing it would drift away without them. But now, it has built its own anchor inside. Self-worth, self-trust, self-compassion. Love from others becomes a gift, not a lifeline. Reassurance becomes sweet, but not survival. Affection is treasured, but no longer required every moment to stay afloat. The greatest paradox is this: the less reassurance is demanded, the more freely it is given. Partners feel safe to express love spontaneously again, to offer gestures without pressure, to say, I love you, because it overflows, not because it's pulled out by fear. And in this freedom, love regains its beauty. In psychology, they say that the anxious heart does not heal by being reassured forever. It heals by learning that it can live without reassurance at all. This is a final freedom. To know that love is real even in silence. To know that worth is intact even in doubt. To know that the self remains whole even when reassurance fades. The story ends not with the erasure of need, but with its transformation. The child within is finally held, not only by others, but by the self. The adult no longer begs love to stay. They trust it when it does, and they endure when it doesn't. And in that trust lies the deepest peace. The peace of knowing that love, once feared as fragile, is in truth far stronger when it is allowed to breathe.